Welcome to the Data Janitor. I'm Mike West, and thanks for joining me. In this video, let's talk about the overlap between the core data roles. If you haven't had a chance to check out my video on the core data roles, I'll put that link in the video down below in the comment section. What does a data analyst do all day? In a previous video, we said the data analyst works with SQL and third-party tools like Power BI. Companies collect tons of data. They need to gain actionable insight into that data. For example, let's say I work at Amazon and I'm an executive. I need to know how many orders were processed each day. I need them broken down by category. How many items did we sell yesterday in women's clothes? How about power tools? How many Apple products did we sell? How many refurbished MacBooks did we sell? All right, you get the point. The data analyst will be given those requirements, often referred to as a use case. And then they will author the code for the report with SQL, or they're going to use a tool like Power BI to create it. They might also use both. They might author the code in SQL, then pass that SQL into Power BI to create the report. If the data analyst is authoring the reports, then what are the other data people doing? The data that the data analyst is writing the reports against isn't a production database. It's a data warehouse. How did that get from the production relational database to the data warehouse for the data analyst to author reports against? That's where the data engineer comes in. The data engineer creates the pipeline that moves the data from the relational database to the data warehouse. Once that data is there, the data engineer is going to give read-only access to the data analyst to author those reports. Notice I said read-only. As the data engineer, I control the level of access everyone has to the data warehouse. As the data engineer, I don't author a ton of code. The code I do author is specific to moving and securing data. I don't author any reports for the business. That's all handled by the data analyst. The responsibility overlap between the data analyst and the data engineer is zero. What are the DBA and SQL developers doing then? Recall in an earlier video, I noted that the DBA is responsible for database administration. It's important to separate the transactional database from the data warehouse. The DBA will administrate the transactional database. For example, if a company uses SQL Server, he or she will be responsible for that production database. What if the company has MySQL also? Well, depending on the size of that shop, there may be teams of DBAs for SQL Server and a team for MySQL. The DBA and the data engineer role are similar. Both administrate data. Both work with databases. Both create users, assign permissions to those users. They architect how the data will be stored. They decide where it's going to be stored, etc. The key difference is the type of data being administered. The data engineer will work with data in the data warehouse, and often a variety of other data types. A DBA will only work with relational databases. Well, what's the SQL Server developer doing? Isn't he or she authoring reports also? No. He's authoring stored procedures and code specific to an application. Authoring reports is much easier than authoring code for a transactional application. The only real overlap between the data analyst and the SQL developer is that they are both writing SQL all day. Here's an important point. The data engineer and DBAs only author code specific to their job. They aren't writing code for the application, and they aren't writing any code for reports. For example, when I create a data pipeline in Snowflake, all that code is SQL. I craft the entire end-to-end pipeline in SQL. The code is never seen by anyone but me and the other data engineers. All right, let's wrap up. The only overlap in the core data roles is between the data engineer and the DBA. One works with relational databases and the other works with data warehouses and other types of unstructured data. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.